when this father took a photo of his wife and daughter in her crib. He had no idea that the following would happen. It only took the man one glance, but that glance would spark a wild adventure of epic proportions, one that included the finding of a treasure, a criminal mastermind, and a daring father who was going to be in the heart of it all. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. It was a beautiful spring day, and the sun was shining down on the small suburban home where the Johnson family lived. Kevin and Julie Johnson had been married for 6 years, and they had always dreamed of starting a family. However, they had struggled with infertility for several years and had almost given up hope of ever having a child of their own. But one day, Julie discovered she was pregnant, and it was like a dream come true for the couple. They were both overjoyed, and they spent the next several months preparing for the arrival of their baby. Kevin was a devoted husband and father-to-be. He spent every spare moment he had building a crib for their little one. As the due date approached, the couple became more and more excited. And then, one beautiful summer day, their little one was ready to be born. July's water broke, and the due date had arrived. Kevin and Julie were both over the moon with happiness. They spent every moment they could with their new baby, marveling at the tiny fingers and toes, the soft wisps of hair, and the perfect little nosy. As the weeks went by, Kevin started to notice something amazing about his wife and their baby. Whenever he walked into the room, his wife would be sitting in the rocking chair, holding the baby close to her chest and softly singing a lullaby. And every time she did this, the baby's eyes would close and she would drift off to sleep. Kevin thought this was incredible. He knew that his wife was an amazing mother, but seeing her interact with their baby in this way was beyond anything he had ever imagined. One day, he decided to capture this special moment on film. He quietly tiptoed into the room, camera in hand, and started filming the special moment between mother and daughter. As he watched through the lens, he noticed something that took his breath away. In the soft glow of the lamp, he saw a faint aura of light surrounding his wife and their baby. Kevin couldn't believe it. I should just leave them alone and just let them sleep, Kevin thought. But as he came close to the door and looked around for one last time, he saw something that made him worry. The sunlight disappeared behind clouds, which should also have made the shimmer disappear. But for some strange reason, the beautiful glow remained. Kevin was confused. How was it possible that the glow was still there even though the sunlight had disappeared? He walked back over to the crib and took a closer look. As he inspected the paint on the crib, he noticed something strange. It looked like there were thousands of little golden specks all over the bed. They could not have been inside the wood. Kevin was a lumberjack, you see. But what else could it be? He went even closer, and then he discovered that the secret was hidden inside the paint he had bought. There were tiny flakes and, in some places, even little chips of gold in the paint. Kevin had never seen anything like this before. He knew that gold was valuable and wondered how it had ended up in the paint. He began to do some research online, trying to find out where the paint had come from and how the gold had been added to it. He spent hours poring over articles and forums online, but he couldn't find any information that would explain the gold flakes he had encountered in the paint. He asked around at local hardware stores and paint shops, but nobody had ever heard of anything like it before. Days turned into weeks, and Kevin's obsession with the gold flakes only grew stronger and stronger. One day, while he was doing his research, he came across a thread on a paint enthusiast forum that caught his eye. The thread was discussing the finding of certain rare metals in custom paint that had been ordered. Kevin's heart skipped a beat as he read the name of the brand. It was the same brand that he had used for the baby's crib. He started to look deeper into the company and its history, and that's when he found a clue that would change everything. He found that most people ignored the fact and just bought new paint, but there was one person who shared the same curiosity that Kevin had. He decided to go out and look for this man, a decision that would spark a wild adventure of epic proportions. Kevin spent the next days trying to track down the man who had posted on the forum about the rare metals in the paint. After some digging, he found out that the man's name was Tom, and he lived in a nearby town. Kevin decided to pay him a visit. When he arrived at Tom's house, he was surprised to find that it was a run-down old place on the outskirts of town. He knocked on the door, and after a few moments, a grizzled old man answered. "Hello, sir," Kevin said. "My name is Kevin Johnson. I'm here because I saw your post on the paint forum, and I think you might be able to help me with a little mystery." Tom looked at Kevin with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. "What kind of mystery?" "Well," Kevin began, "I found some gold flakes in the paint that I used for my baby's crib. I've been trying to figure out where they came from, and I saw on the forum that you had a similar experience. I might have some information that could be useful." Kevin followed Tom into his living room, which was cluttered with old furniture and stacks of newspapers. Tom gestured for him to sit down on an old tattered armchair and then disappeared into the kitchen. Kevin explained the situation with the gold flakes in the paint, and Tom listened carefully, nodding his head every now and then. When Kevin finished, Tom leaned back in his chair and let out a long sigh. "I knew something like this was going to happen," he said. "That company has been up to no good for years." "What do you mean?" Kevin asked. "About 10 years ago, I used to work for that company. They were always experimenting with new additives and chemicals to make their paints more durable and resistant to wear and tear. But one day, I stumbled upon something that was more valuable than I could have ever imagined. They found a way to add small amounts of gold to their paint." "But why?" Kevin asked. "What's the point of all that?" Tom stared at Kevin with a serious look on his face. "Come with me." The two men entered a back room of the house, and there Kevin stood in amazement as he saw wall-to-wall covered in newspapers, pictures, and red lines connecting all of it. "You have been at it for a while, haven't you?" Tom cited. "It has consumed most of my life for the last 20 years. Tom began to explain to Kevin the story of the paint company and its owners. It turned out that the owners were actually old criminals who had stolen a large sum of golden chips over 25 years ago. They tried to sell the gold illegally way back when, but simply couldn't get rid of it. Meanwhile, they were hunted by the police all the time. In the end, they took new identities and tried to get rid of the golden chips by putting them in paint. They noticed that adding small amounts to the paint would increase the quality of the paint significantly. Therefore, they could ask for more money for the paint and still make bank in the end. But they never expected that anyone would notice or figure out their secret. Kevin couldn't believe what he was hearing. It sounded like something out of a movie, but it was all too real. Tom continued to explain that he had been tracking the paint company for years, trying to uncover their secrets and bring them to justice. Kevin was fascinated by Tom's story, and he knew that he had to help him uncover the truth about the paint company and its owners. He offered to help in any way that he could, and Tom gratefully accepted. The two men spent the next few days gathering information, interviewing people, and piecing together the puzzle. They discovered the location of where the criminals were hiding, and they even made plans to confront them. As they approached the criminals' hideout, Kevin could feel his heart racing. When they arrived at the door, they knocked loudly and waited for someone to answer. After a few moments, the door creaked open, and a small, wiry man peered out at them. "What do you want?" he asked, eyeing them suspiciously. "We want to talk to you about your paint company," Tom said, his voice firm and steady. The man's eyes widened in surprise. He tried to slam the door shut, but Tom and Kevin were too quick, and also not alone. Of course, they had come prepared and informed the police, who were also present at that moment. They pushed their way inside and found themselves in a large, dimly lit room filled with crates and boxes. The criminal mastermind, who had been hiding behind the door, emerged from the shadows. He was a large, imposing man with a scar on his cheek and a dangerous glint in his eye. "Who are you?" he demanded, stepping forward. "We know who you are," Kevin said, standing his ground. "We know about the gold in your paint." The man sneered. "So what? You think you can take me down just like that?" Barging in seemed foolish, But there was a plan. Suddenly, the sound of police sirens filled the air, and the criminal mastermind's face paled. "What the hell is going on?" "You're under arrest," one of the police officers said, stepping forward and handcuffing the man. "You're going away for a long time." The rest of the gang was also arrested, and the police found evidence of their illegal activities, including the stolen golden chips. Kevin and Tom were praised for their efforts in bringing the criminals to justice, and they became local heroes. Over the next few months, Kevin and Tom worked tirelessly to make sure that the criminals were brought to justice. They testified in court, and their evidence helped to ensure that the criminals received the maximum sentence for their crimes. In the end, justice was served. The golden chips were returned to their rightful owners, and Kevin and Tom became lifelong friends. They would always remember the adventure they had shared together and the amazing things that can happen when you follow your curiosity and take action.